Cade Kloberdanz, also known as Chris Kloberdanz.
Yes.
That's how I know you. I know you as Chris.
Fair enough. I answered either.
Do you, your dad obviously calls you Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think so we could just jump right in there.
Okay.
With the name.
Right.
The name came about because in the military, which I was in, I was the one that did the cadence for anytime we were marching. So that became the nickname. Cade came out of cadence. And then
really?
Yeah, and that happened when I was 20 years old. So I have now been going by Cade as a name for longer in my life than my actual birth name. It's been 22 years of Cade versus 20 years of Chris. Because, I'm 2 days older than you.
That's right.
And just had my 42nd birthday not that long ago. So, yeah, that's where that came from. So, yeah, the only people left that call me Chris is my very limited amount of family here, which is my dad and my 2 sets of aunts and uncles.
Okay.
Everybody else is gone. And then you and like maybe 3 other people that knew me before I left, because I was gone for almost 20 years from Grand Junction, from the time I left until I moved back. A little over 18 years, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Time does fly, man.
It does.
Yeah. I remember, I have so many memories with you.
Okay.
Yeah. And good memories.
Good.
And for the listeners and stuff, Chris, I'm just going to call you Chris.
That's fine. Yeah.
Chris and I go way back till
elementary school, probably age. It's got to be.
Yeah. Went to church together for years.
I mean, that was the only church my parents went to while I was here. Yeah. So, I mean, that for me, that my only church going was to Valley Bible Church in Grand Junction. So, yeah.
And there was probably like a 2.5 to 3 year stint where I pretty much went over to your house after church every Sunday.
Every Sunday, yeah. Watch football, play football, whatever it was, or baseball, anything, soccer, especially soccer. Yeah.
Oh man, I have so many fond memories, man. And when I think about you and I hanging out, gosh, man, there was the park over by your house, the backyard alone, which the fence made our natural home run.
Yep,
fence,
exactly.
And,
yep.
The cul-de-sac behind your house that we would always go fetch the balls and stuff that we hit over the fence.
Which is kind of convenient that every time we hit one, it didn't go into somebody else's yard.
Right,
it went into the cul-de-sac where you could just go retrieve it relatively easily.
Yep. Yeah. So just a pleasure to have you here, man, on this launch of a podcast that I'm trying to do. And again, the whole idea for this podcast, because you kind of asked me that right when you got here, just a local podcast.
Okay.
Something that can feed into our community, something that will give people an idea of maybe what's going on in our community, as I have special interest guests come on, and so they can just learn more about what's going on. Most of the podcasts that I listen to now are so political now. I mean, the stories are so political that I'm wanting to try to create something that, and I'm sure there will be some political aspects in just normal conversation, as we're living through what we're going through right now with the climate that we're in. But just fun conversation, stuff about Grand Junction that we remember, that we grew up in, and then new current stuff that's going on. So that's kind of the idea.
That sounds great, man.
I
think I can do that.
Yeah. Building up relationships and a network, within this local community. So that's kind of the gist of it. So Glad you're here. And you have a huge story. You really do. And I wanted you to come on just to kind of to share your story a little bit. And we don't have to spend a ton of time on that, but because I do want to talk fishing
Right.
as well.
Okay.
I really want to make sure that we get into fishing. But give us a quick summary, or it could be long, I don't know, whatever you want to do
Sure.
as to what has transpired in the last 6 years of your life.
Actually, it's right at just over 4 now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Okay.
almost exactly 4.
Okay.
So sure. This is we're talking on a podcast, but you've also got a visual aspect
Yeah.
of it. So anybody watching will be able to see. I am wheelchair bound.
Okay.
I definitely always wasn't wheelchair bound, as you well know. Prior to 2018, I was super active. I was running half marathons, training for ultra marathons, running through the woods. In the best shape of my life at 38 than I had ever been. Rock climbing, fishing, all that stuff, out in the outdoors constantly. And I got bit by a tick. And that's when this all started, is I got bit by a tick, and that started, I ended up getting Lyme disease from the tick. And anybody that knows anything about Lyme disease, it lives in you get sick when you get it, but then it never completely goes away. It hides in your spinal cord for the rest of your life. It just never goes away. So what we think happened is that I was about, and by we, I mean the doctors.
Okay.
What they think happened is that I was about to have a reoccurrence of the Lyme disease, that it was going to come, that it was coming back. So my body tried to attack the Lyme disease, and wires got crossed, and it ended up attacking itself. So what I ended up doing was my immune system created a lesion around my spinal cord in the myelin sheath. And the myelin sheath of your spinal cord is where the signals, the nerve signals, go down your spine, is in this sheath to communicate from your brain to your toes, kind of thing. And that damage, they call the disease that I got, it's called transverse myelitis. And basically all that means is transverse means it was a full circle all the way around my spinal cord, and that it's not just like one spot, that it was all the way around. And the myelitis part of it's just, it basically means lesion. So that lesion's at T4, T6 on my spine for the area in your spine, which is just below like where your breasts are, middle of your chest.
Okay.
So everything below that, the signal stopped going through, thanks to the damage that was done to the myelin sheath. So the way I kind of describe it to everybody is, imagine that your brain, your body is a hose, garden hose. Mm-hmm. Your brain signals are where the faucet is. You turn the faucet on, and a normal person, the water goes full steam out the other end. Mm-hmm. Somebody's put a kink in my hose.
Okay.
And when I got sick, it stopped completely. I mean, I lost over the course of 30 days, and so we're right at the 4-year mark. I got sick January 27th is when I first started to notice something was wrong.
From the tick bite?
No, this is from the reoccurrence of the attack.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I kind of skipped over. So the tick bite happened a year prior.
Okay.
So I got Lyme disease, recovered from Lyme disease, and was feeling great. And about a year had gone by.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm following you good now.
At the time.
Cool.
Went hiking, was out in the woods, did some camping, and then when I came back, I had been doing some trail running while I was out there, because like I said, I was starting to training for an ultra marathon. And I woke up on the morning of January 27th of 2018, and everything was numb from middle of my chest down.
So
but I had
like overnight.
Yeah, it felt like, I guess kind of the way I describe that part to people is that it felt like when your foot goes to sleep or your hand goes to sleep.
Yeah, like the pins and needles type of thing.
Yeah, well, and just the nut, like you could still move everything, but
Right.
just how it felt numb and you couldn't. That's how everything felt. And
Okay.
I was like, I must have pinched a nerve in my back doing the trail running, sleeping in the tent. I'm getting older, like it just
Right.
happens kind of thing. So I didn't think anything of it. That was on a Thursday, I want to say. I took Friday off of work just to stay in bed, called in and told him that I'd hurt my back and I was just going to take the weekend to try and get better, but it didn't get any better.
And you were in Florida?
No, I was in Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, we're jumping all over
I
the
know.
place.
That's okay.
No, I probably should have given a timeline for that.
No, that's all right. So you're in Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm in Arkansas,
Okay.
a little town called Russellville, Arkansas, which is out in the middle of nowhere. Town has like 12,000 people. I worked in hospital administration, and I'd gotten recruited to work out there. A big company that I worked for had a certain job at each of these hospitals, a revenue cycle director. We worked for the CFOs of the hospitals, basically just doing accounting for them. I was glorified accounting, basically. Really good with Excel was my job. And they just made me an offer I couldn't refuse to move out to Arkansas. And I was like, well, it's only for a couple of years, but I got to do it. I can't say no to this opportunity. So I moved out to Arkansas. Okay. So that's how I ended up there. That's how I ended up getting Lyme disease and everything else, because Arkansas has every single time you go hiking or anything in the woods, you will have ticks on you. Like
It's like part of
it's part of it.
Their life,
yeah. Although they still claim, even as I got sick, they said, we don't have Lyme disease in Arkansas. Like, yeah, you do apparently. But anyhow, so yeah, I woke up, everything was numb, stayed home for the weekend, was still numb on that Monday. Luckily for me, as I just filled everybody in, I work at a hospital, so I at least had access to a hospital right then. So went and got checked out. They thought, the doctor that saw me thought that maybe I was coming down with diabetes, that he thought that was the reason for the numbness and pins and needles feeling and stuff like that. So basically ordered some blood work and then told me to wait 2 weeks and see if it got better. Well, it just kept getting worse and worse. Finally got to the point where I went back into his office after 2 weeks for a reevaluation. He said, how are you doing? I said, not good. He said, it's getting worse. Said, I still have control of everything. Like at this point, I was still walking, doing everything like normal. I just couldn't feel anything. It was the weirdest thing. And so he said, that's weird. Your blood work came back fine. You're not even close to diabetic. So then that's when he had me try and do this walk across the room on your toes. And then I did that okay. And then he said, okay, now walk across the room on your heels. And as soon as I tried to do that, to lift up my toes and walk on my heels, I made it like 2 steps before I fell on the floor.
Which was probably shocking to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So was. Well, he immediately said, okay, well, something's wrong. So that's when we decided to refer me to a neurologist. And he said, let's give the neurologist something to work with. So I'm just going to order MRIs of everything. So ordered an MRI of my brain, MRI of my neck, MRI of my back and lower back, just all the way, basically, of my spinal cord. And again, worked at a hospital, so that was pretty convenient to just be able to do it at work in between stuff. Got that done, and that's when they found the lesion, sent me to a neurologist. Neurologist said, yep, you've got transverse myelitis. So then I was like, well, what in the world is transverse myelitis?
Yeah.
So I had to start doing some research on that. Super rare disease, the kind of transverse myelitis that I have, and there are several kinds of it, but the kind I have is the rarest kind. It affects about 600 people in the U.S. a year. Wow. So super rare disease, which means it's super specialized care / there aren't that many people doing it because there's not as much need for it. The way I would describe it to the listeners is most everybody knows somebody or has heard of somebody that has multiple sclerosis, has MS.
Yeah.
It's like really bad MS, basically. Like,
Okay.
you know, most people that get MS get it and have some motor issues and stuff that they're able to overcome, come back from. Mine's permanent. So over the course of the 30 days from January 27th to March 2nd or March 1st, whatever it was, right around there, it might have been a little over 30 days, I lost the ability to walk. That March 2nd, I believe it was, I took my last steps that were normal steps and couldn't do it anymore. I was falling down.
Good grief.
So I had to get into a wheelchair. So then they sent me to a neurologist, got admitted to the University of Arkansas Hospital, their medical school up there in Little Rock, and spent 3 weeks the first time I was in the hospital with them running every possible test. They do a lot of the stuff that they do to treat it is to give you steroids to reduce the inflammation. The steroids sent me on a path of gaining a ton of weight, which is its own story.
Sure, yeah.
Something I still have to deal with because it's still part of the treatment for me.
Oh, so you're still taking
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be on them forever because it's what reduces the inflammation around my spinal cord, and the inflammation is what's causing the squeezing
kink
of the hose.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and then they give you a chemo drug. Luckily for me, the particular chemo drug is fairly mild, as in it doesn't make me lose my hair, doesn't make me particularly sick. But yeah, every 6 months for the rest of my life, I'll be on that. In fact, I just recently had January was the most recent treatment of that.
Oh, wow.
I always kind of feel crappy for about 2 weeks afterwards till I'm back to normal. But
Yeah.
they think that particular chemo drug kills the cells that they think are the cells that are responsible for attacking my spinal cord.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's
And
so
this is something that surgery can't do?
no, not at this time. There is some very promising stuff being done with stem cells for it. In fact, they recently it used to just be called the Transverse Myelitis Cerna Society, similar to the MS Society. I forget the name of it now off the top of my head, but it's basically the nonprofit society that specializes in this disease and is kind of the main resource for people that have the disease. They just released some studies where it's working on mice, that they're able to take paralyzed mice and do the stem cell. It's a very specific, it's beyond a stem cell. It's called a Q cell, which is the actual cell in our bodies that's responsible for growing the myelin sheath around your spinal cord. They're able to grow new myelin sheath and then surgically put it into mice, and the paralyzed mice can walk again. So
Wow.
So there's some hope on the horizon for it. I mean, it'll be a while. They're doing. There's one hospital that's got kind of the main doctor in the U.S. that specializes in this disease is doing a clinical study where he wants to do that to 8 people.
Would you want to be part of that?
I
case
applied
study?
for it,
Oh,
but
you did?
I don't think I'll get in because what they want, again, for your listeners, I can now, as I've recovered some, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but as I've recovered some, I can walk a little bit now with a walker. Like I can transfer from my chair to the bed to the boat for fishing so I can do a tiny bit of walking and kind of
that's from your physical therapy, right?
And also some recovery from the disease. Like there has definitely been some recovery from the disease.
Talk about that. Like give us a little timeline on what that looked like.
Yeah, but let me finish on his study real quick, which is one of the eliminating factors that they had is if you can walk or stand on your own. They don't want to do it because basically the FDA has told them in order to do the study, they're like, we don't want you to paralyze somebody that wasn't paralyzed. So they only want to let the first group of people to come in are people that are already fully paralyzed to to be the test
Yeah,
subjects.
fair
She
enough.
can't.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea.
So yeah, so recovery wise, again, got sick in January of 2018, and I would say in December of 2018, I was able to stand up for the first time since I'd gotten sick. And then slowly over these last 3 years, I've progressed to where, like I said, I can walk very short distances
Yeah.
with a walker. I still can't feel my feet or anything else. It's
Like at all?
no. So again, back to this one is more accurate to what you were saying before about the pins and needles feeling.
Okay.
That's how my feet feel all the time. Like they're just on fire all the time.
Oh, geez.
Like when you wake up and your foot's asleep, that's just how my legs and feet feel all the time.
So, like when you're putting socks and shoes on, is it?
So it does, but I always tell people, like, kind of the blessing and the curse of this is that the pain doesn't get better or worse. It's just constant, and so it just becomes white noise. So if I think about
sure.
like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it hurts. Like it's a burning
Let's
sensation.
talk about it for
all
the
the
next
time.
15, 20 minutes.
But because it doesn't ever get lessened or worsening,
Yeah.
it kind of just becomes background noise eventually.
Sure.
So over the course of the last 3 years, I've slowly kind of learned how to walk again a little bit to some extent. And yes, extensive rehab. My longest stint was the VA. So all of my care is through the VA. They have a brand new VA hospital that they built in Denver that the hospital itself is brand new, and then even more new was a specific spinal cord injury institute that they built. That if anybody knows Craig Hospital in Denver, which is like one of the best spinal cord injury places in the world, like that's
In the
where,
world?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very serious, like that's if you have a really bad sports injury that involved you getting paralyzed or something like that, that's a lot of people end up at Craig Hospital. Well, the VA recruited most of the staff from Craig Hospital and stole them over to the VA. So when I went there, when it first opened up, I was patient number 7. I mean, literally,
Wow.
when I got into my room, we were still taking tags off of stuff, like, and wrapping paper, because everything in the room, I was the first person that had ever been in the room, and everything was brand new. But yeah, everybody there, all the physical therapists, all the occupational therapists were all from Craig Hospital, had been recruited from Craig Hospital or other specific spinal cord injury places. So these are very specialized treatment. And I was there for 2 months, and yeah, that 2 months was a huge help. When I went there, I would say the way I talk about going there is that when I first went there, I was not capable of taking care of myself. I needed assistance, whether
Right.
it be from my folks or a caregiver or whoever. I needed help getting dressed, doing stuff like that. When I left 2 months later, I was self-sufficient. Like I could get dressed on my own and do everything on my own to some extent.
Gosh, that's
including
so
while
good.
I was there, I got to go to driving school and learn how to drive with hand controls and get my driver's license. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a lot in just 2 months.
it was pretty intense. But again, when you're one of only 7 patients, that's all they had there. It was
Right.
brand new. I mean, I was getting PT 2 times a day, occupational therapy 2 times a day, the driving school it was intense. Like
It probably flew by for you.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I mean, you're definitely, it was pretty isolating just because I'm in Denver. I don't know anybody in Denver.
Right.
So it wasn't like my parents or friends were coming to visit or anything.
Right.
And they didn't, at that time, it was so new that they didn't have enough staff yet to do anything on the weekends. So on the weekends, you were by yourself. You had nursing there
To
taking
help
care
assist
of
you and stuff, yeah.
But there was no physical therapy or anything on the weekends. So yeah, our first venture into fly fishing here, I just tied a crap load of flies. I
Really?
brought my vise and and all my
perfect,
materials
right.
and spent 2 months tying flies. So
What did PT consist of for you?
I mean, man, everything you can possibly think of, from they putting me into this harness that had the overhanging bars that they could control how much percentage of weight was put onto my legs.
Oh, okay.
So they could literally say, well, let's start off with like 5% of your entire body weight is going to be actually put on your legs, and trying to walk and training my brain, literally relearning how to walk. I mean, you had to get to the point where, and I still do, I can't really feel it. I just have to trust that my leg is going to do what I want it to do. And so I don't, like, even now, I can't walk without looking down at my feet to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to. Like, I can't trust that my right foot is going to pick up and set down where I think. I've got to watch and make sure, because there's a lot of falling. Is all I could say.
Yeah.
Or almost falling. A lot of them trying to hold me up when I would start to fall. But so lots of stuff like that. And then occupational therapy, like literally somebody like helping me figure out how can we get you to balance in a way that you can pull your pants up, and like,
oh wow,
stuff like I literally had to learn how to get dressed. And
yeah.
So it was, like I said, fairly intense.
A really humbling situation, man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. From somebody that is fiercely independent. I mean, I could tell you, and we'll get to, I'm sure, talking about Grand Junction some more too. But when I left Grand Junction, I swore I was never coming back to Grand Junction. Mm-hmm. And had I not gotten sick, I would never have come back to Grand Junction. Right. I can positively tell you that was not going to happen.
Well, like I've already talked about a number of people on the podcasts. You didn't take the dirt, right?
I didn't go get dirt from the 3 different mountains that I was supposed to. That is one of my favorite sayings. Yeah. Favorite, whatever you want to call it.
Urban legends
about Grand Junction, that if you don't take the dirt from,
you're going to come back.
You're going to get stuck coming back.
Yep.
So yes. And I can't remember why I brought that up now in particular about Grand Junction. Oh, I think just you were saying how humbling the experience was.
Yeah.
And just for me to be like, I mean, I had to move back in with my parents and needed their help 24/7.
Yeah.
And just,
bring that mic up just a little closer.
Sure.
To your mind, man. There you go.
Yeah, needed their help 24/7 and or a caregiver of some time. And, nothing's more humbling than having somebody else have to bathe you, kind of thing, because you can't do it yourself. Like,
oh man, so. I can't even imagine. And, and like to say, for me, like my first response is I want to be like, gosh, dude, I'm so sorry, but it just kind of is what it is, right? I mean, it's.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, this wasn't a poor choice. Like I didn't,
right.
I didn't,
and
do
nobody
something.
did it to you.
Yeah, exactly. There's nobody to blame. It just happened.
Well, you could blame that tick, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely, I can tell you that I am the one person that brings that up to like everybody I talk to when we go like camping or hiking or something now. I'm like, you got bug spray? You got tick stuff? Check for, like we have ticks in Colorado. I don't care what anybody says, especially in the warmer months now. There are ticks. So, I'm definitely an advocate for that. But
gosh, man, crazy that one little tick bite had completely altered the course of where you were at in life.
Yeah, and I mean, again, they don't know for sure that that's what did it. It might have happened anyhow.
Regardless.
Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, they don't know.
Okay.
They don't know. It's just like MS. Nobody knows what causes a lot of these autoimmune diseases. Mm-hmm. They just happen. So,
right.
But that just makes sense to them in the time, of the fact that they know I have that disease and that disease is there. Still to this day. So
wow, Crazy, man. Crazy. Okay, so you go through rehab in Denver, come back home, kind of settling yourself in, get to the point where you're able to drive around, like kind of get places where you need to go. So what are some of the things that you noticed about Grand Junction that you were like, wow, this is completely different than when I left?
I mean, we'll start with the most obvious one, which is the size. When I left in 2000, when I left Grand Junction, I want to say, and when I'm referring, I guess just to be clear for everybody, when I refer to Grand Junction, I count Palisade and Orchard Mesa,
right? Yeah,
and the
Fruita.
Whole Grand Valley and Fruita too.
Yeah,
that it's all one thing to me.
Yeah.
in there. So I will say that at the time when I left in 2000, I believe that the population of the whole was about 54,000 people. And now it's 150,000 people.
Right.
So it has literally tripled
yeah,
in size in the 18 years that I was gone. So
a lot of people have moved here.
Yeah, I mean, so that in and of itself was shocking, just to see how big it was and how much more stuff there was here. I used to feel like that was kind of the joke, like why you wanted to leave and all that stuff. Like there weren't good restaurants here. There weren't good, there wasn't any kind of culture here. And, the amount of things that there are to do here, like good bands didn't stop and play in Grand Junction. Now they do. Like it's insane how much more access there is to that kind of stuff. The stuff that I like doing, and the stuff that I'm interested in culturally is available here now that wasn't before. And then just kind of some of the shifts, like one of the ones that you'll remember and your listeners will probably remember, when we were like high school age, North Avenue was the hub of Grand Junction. Yeah. Like North Avenue was where the good restaurants and the businesses were, and people cruised to North Avenue on Friday and Saturday nights. And the deadest place in town was Main Street. Like Main Street was dead. Yep. Like nobody went down to Main Street except for old people. Now it's the exact opposite. Main Street is the heart of Grand Junction.
Yeah.
All the places I like to eat and go are on Main Street. And the only reason I ever travel down North Avenue is to get to the VA hospital, and that's it. Otherwise, I have no use for North Avenue anymore. So yeah, and same, the mall used to be a huge thing. The mall, I mean, Grand Junction is incredibly lucky that Dillard's and Dick's decided to come to that mall, because Well, really, they're lucky Cabela's is what kept it alive,
right? Yeah,
for a decade plus. Otherwise, that mall would be completely closed. It and Target, I guess, Cabela's and Target kept things afloat for long enough for now Dillard's and Dick's to get there. And I've heard like Texas Roadhouse is supposedly moving into the building that was Sutherland's Lumber.
I think they're building a new one.
Are they? Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought they were taking over that building is what I had heard, but
I believe that whole building is going to be taken down.
Gotcha.
And then they're going to start building out that area. Let's see. I heard Texas Roadhouse. Maybe like a Panda Express is coming in there too. And then there was one more, and I can't remember what it was. So that's exciting for me because I live right down there.
Nice.
So, and although, and I've taught my boys this. So Dax is now 9.
Okay.
And Beckham is 6 years old.
Okay.
And so from Thanksgiving till Christmas, anything to the south of Patterson is called the Chaos Zone.
Okay.
Right?
Yep,
because that's where all the Christmas shopping for the
done.
entire town is basically done. It seems like, anyways, in that area. And so, although I'm super excited for all this new stuff, and especially as the Canyon View commercial area off of 24 Road continues to grow too.
Right.
the chaos zone is only going to get worse. And so, but it's kind of funny because I will have completely forgotten about it. And then we're driving down there and I'm like, oh man, it's just so busy. And then my boys in the back are like, the chaos zone.
Nice. That's so funny. Yeah. You were spot on with that. Like that is where everybody does all that stuff now. But again, that's the further decline of North Avenue as we're talking about. Like Texas Roadhouse is the last restaurant on North Avenue that's not fast food that I'm aware of. That's
it's the last. I think you're right, dude. I think it is the last food joint. There used to be like a Chinese restaurant down there.
Something just opened next door to them.
Okay.
Like at that, I guess what used to be Hooters at one point in time. That's a hilarious one to me. That did not exist when I left here. It came and left before I ever came back. So that did not survive very long. Yeah.
It didn't take. And maybe it's because they should have built, on the west side of town. I don't know. But I want to say maybe 4 years.
Yeah. I didn't even know we had one. And then my dad or somebody else brought up that's where it used to be. And I'm like, when was that here? The one I'm mad at you guys for, though, for not making Survive is Five Guys. How did you let Five Guys come and then go out of business?
I didn't know we had a Five Guys.
Or was it not Five Guys? Smashburger.
Oh, yes. Smashburger. Yeah.
How did you guys let Smashburger not survive? Smashburger is so good.
I have no idea.
I'm so sad about that. Like, that's the one thing I really, really miss from again, for your listeners. I lived everywhere, but I lived in New Jersey, is where I went to college at Rutgers University, and then I lived in Florida for a number of years after college, and then Arkansas. So everything east of the Mississippi, and there are some fantastic burger. Like I've lived in places that had all of the big good burger restaurants around. So I severely miss those. Yes. I miss Five Guys and Smashburger, and I'm trying to think of the other ones that are really good. Oh, In-N-Out. Colorado finally got their first In-N-Out.
Yeah.
So I have hope that maybe someday we will get an In-N-Out.
Maybe.
Since there is one in Denver now.
Yeah.
But
you'd think that we would get one here soon, but I don't know. We had like 3 Smashburgers in town.
I know. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm upset though. The one that's opening up though that I am excited about, we're getting a Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's is so good. People go to Jersey Mike's. Yeah. It's
I've never heard of Jersey Mike's.
It's a sub place like Jimmy John's, but better in my opinion. Oh yeah, better sandwiches.
I do like Jimmy John's.
Yeah. Better sandwiches for sure. I don't know what specific building, but it's going to be on the corner of, I think it's 12th Street, right across from Ale House, where that that Safeway or whatever that is, that group of buildings on that corner of Patterson.
Yeah, they got that new little shopping building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be in there.
Okay.
So
that'll be good to check out for sure. What was it called again?
Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
You should see it. Well, I don't know how much TV you watch, but they're advertising like crazy for Jersey Mike's during sports recently. Like if you're watching any kind of football, that's like every other ad is Jersey Mike's. And I was like, I wonder why we're getting so many of those for not having one here. And then I looked it up and it's like, oh, we're getting one here. So they're just preemptively flooding the market.
So are you a Freddy's fan?
Yeah, Freddy's is good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Freddy's is good.
Yeah, we just got Freddy's within the last like 5-6 years. And now there's a second location going. No, sorry, third location over in Clifton.
Nice.
So, really cool story about Freddy's real quick.
Let's hear it.
So during the fall, I guide archery hunts, elk hunts. And it's a pretty nice ranch that these guys are coming into. They pay a lot of money for these hunts. They eat a lot of really, really good food. The lodge is really nice. It's real roughing it.
Yeah.
Not really. And so this new guide comes in this year. He wasn't there last year. He comes in this year. And no, sorry, not new guide, new hunter. And I get assigned to him. And So I've never met the guy or anything like that. And we're driving up the road, our first, I think it was our first hunt out. And, you know, typical, like when guys first get together, like what's the first question that you ask? Like, what do you do for work?
Yeah, right.
And so, and he's like, oh, he's like, actually, I can't remember exactly how that went down, but anyways, he's like, do you like the restaurant Freddy's? And I was like, yeah, I like Freddy's a lot. I told him, I was like, we just got 2 of them in town, just within the last 5 years or so. And he's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, you do? And he's like, yeah. And he goes,
I'm Freddy. No.
no, not quite. But he goes, I'm the CEO of Freddy's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I was just like, what? No way. So, Chris, if you ever watch this, man, shout out to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. His name's Chris Dole. So
cool.
Yeah. So, and then we had a great hunt. So, I really like Freddy's, and I especially am kind of biased towards Freddy's now because Chris.
You have that connection.
Yeah.
Is he going to come back? Is
yes.
he going to be a repeat client?
He already put his deposit in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to hanging out with him again. So
good deal.
Yeah. So I'm biased towards Freddy's a little bit. Try to frequent that place more often than any of the other places, but
yeah, and that's as far as the chain restaurants go, that it's funny, we just spent so much time talking about chain restaurants, and I hardly ever eat at chain restaurants. I almost always eat at local places.
Which is good.
Growing up, I remember the restaurant that we ate at the most in town I'm pretty sure my parents kept, like, are the reason that it was here is Applebee's. They ate at Applebee's. Oh my God, because it's right there on Horizon Drive. We used to live close to it. I can't eat it anymore. Like any of those, I can't do Applebee's, Chili's, TGI Fridays, because I had so much of it for so long, and so now all I want to do is eat it.
I remember
places.
You and I, after church, always going to Western
Sizzlin'. Yep, Western Sizzlin'. I knew you were going to say that one, but it's not around anymore, so I didn't bring that one up. Again, yet another casualty of North Avenue there.
Yeah.
When North Avenue
You and I spent many Sundays at that place, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
I think that was the vast majority of our church went to that place after. Like it was just our church went from church to Western Sizzlin'.
Just down the road there. And then that's so funny. So true, though. But yeah, I have lots of fond memories of you and I doing that. So,
Yep, for sure.
One of the coolest things about your story that I really... I don't know, man. It's just so great. Is you're not letting what's happened to you affect what you're super passionate about and what you super love to do, right? And which is fly fishing.
Yep.
And I just think it's really cool. You know, you're like, I'm not gonna let this down. And so at first I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, Chris is he's gonna fly fish, and he's gonna look for the places that he can, like Pacochupuck, you know, down by Ridgeway. Mm-hmm. They have that nice wheelchair access fishing. I don't know of any other places though around that have like the wheelchair access type.
They don't, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of my passion project of stuff that I'm working on.
Okay, so before we get into that,
please.
And so I was like, well, that's cool. Like he's fly fishing and trying to hit up these wheelchair access fly fishing areas, which Pacochupuck was the only one that I knew about. Mm-hmm. And even that's pretty limited because that's not a very long stretch of river to fish. And then I hear you have a boat, and I'm like, wait a minute, like of all the people that like want to get on a boat and fly fish, Typically people in a wheelchair are not those people, especially when you're the one that's going out and doing this. And I don't know if you've ever gone out by yourself or not, but have you gone out by yourself, or do you?
No, not yet. But
okay.
I do row at least half the time. Whoever I'm going with, I'm half the time on the sticks and half the time fishing. Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because I made that decision to buy my first boat. I had not been in a drift boat since I was 14, I want to say, when my dad had a drift boat.
Okay.
So I hadn't even tried to get in one. As a paraplegic, get from my wheelchair into the boat before I bought one. I just made the decision to buy it and was like, I will figure this out. Because I knew, it started with what you just brought up, and we'll get into that some more, but there are so few places where somebody in a wheelchair can go fish that isn't still water on a lake, like Corn Lake, somewhere like that,
and even that is really limited.
Yeah, there's 3 spots on Corn Lake that I can get to.
I think it took forever just to get the other 2.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just the one spot all the time that we were growing up.
Yep, exactly. And how often, I mean, it's a whole other thing, but how often do you go to that spot and you know that the people that are using it are not handicapped in any way, shape, or form? They're just like, oh, this is convenient to go out on this pier and bring my chair out here and sit out out in a folding chair, or in a camp chair. So I run into that all the time too, like having to ask people to move, or
excuse me, can I use this?
It's here for me. Oh, I'm handicapped too. Awesome. Then we can share it, but you need to at least make enough room to let me get out on it. So I hated that. I absolutely hated it because I was so limited in the places that I can go, and trying to catch fish was so difficult. So I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, I'm of the opinion that most of the time you will catch more fish in a drift boat than you will on the bank.
Which is definitely true.
You're just covering so much more water, no matter how able-bodied you are or anything else. You don't get to sit there and meticulously pick through a hole and catch every fish that's in a particular area and stuff. You're obviously getting one shot or a couple of shots in any given spot as you go by. But you're just covering so much water. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, that's going to be the way to do it. My dad's first suggestion is like, well, why don't you hire a guide and go with a guide? And so I went down to our local fly shop, to Western Anglers, where I love that fly shop. By the way, I grew up going to that fly shop. I mean, that's where my first fly rods came from. Still have my first rod and stuff hanging on the wall from that fly shop back when it was out by the mall before it moved downtown. And talked to them about it, and they said they got a guide here. His name's Jeff McKenna. He's now one of a good friend of mine and one of the best fly fishing guides I've ever seen. But I got all set to go with him, and then he had to cancel. I want to say, I don't remember exactly why, but I think it was because the weather was just going to be crap and the fishing was going to suck, and so we were just going to reschedule. And I appreciated that, because he could have easily, this is part of the reason why I'm making sure to say his name and give him a shout out, because he could easily have taken my money and caught no fish that day, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to make sure I had a good day on the water. And it was more important to him to cancel it and to try and reschedule than to just take my money. So, anyhow, he cancels, and that week I just happened to all of a sudden see an ad on, I think it was my dad, actually. No, it was my dad, because it was Facebook, and I never use Facebook for anything. So he saw an ad on Facebook for a drift boat for sale in a price range that I could afford. So we started looked up the drift boat and saw that it was fairly priced for what the guy was asking for it versus what it would cost new. Called the guy up that was selling it. He's a park ranger out in I'm trying to remember where he was. Just south of Indian Creek in Utah.
Okay.
I forget what park that was out there. It might have been Canyonlands, at the entrance to Canyonlands or something, but he used it one time. Got it. He and his brother went for a float on the San Juan, decided it was too small for him and wanted to get something different. So went and took a look at it, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I figured at the price I was paying for it and the condition of the boat, that if it didn't work, I could just turn around and sell it again quickly. So, excuse me.
Do you need some more water?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's all right. Keep telling the story.
Okay. So, got the boat. Had never taken it before in my life. It sat in my driveway for probably 3 months, because right after I got it is when I ended up going to rehab in Denver.
Oh, okay.
So I never got to use it. And then got back from rehab, and a very good friend of mine, and one I will be eternally grateful to, a guy named Pete Ashman, that I've become super close with, has just said, we're going to go. We're going to take you out. And he just started taking me in my boat, teaching me how to row, making sure I got out. And yeah, to the point that was in 2019. Yeah, 2019 that I got the boat. To the point that last year in 2021, I was like, well, I need a bigger boat now. So I bought his boat.
Oh, okay.
So I now have a boat you probably haven't even seen yet that's a way bigger 3-person drift boat.
Okay.
16-foot Koffler aluminum drift boat. I especially like, even though the aluminum is not great for when the water's low, like during the summer, late summer and stuff, it can get to where we can't take that boat out, at least on the Gunnison. The Colorado's usually pretty okay, but the Gunnison, the flows will get low enough that boat will get stuck a lot. But it's a great boat for me and really for anyone else to learn to row, because it's aluminum, so you can bounce off the rocks without having to worry about damaging the boat too much. And again, just feels nice and secure and everything in that boat. So yeah, I absolutely love it. So
is it difficult then for you to get in the boat? I mean, what does it look like?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. So generally, it depends on the boat ramps. If they're paved and really how steep they are, you'd be shocked at how steep a lot of boat ramps are.
Yeah.
Where it's hard to keep your balance on it. So what ends up happening most of the time is we get my wheelchair next to the boat, and I'm able to stand straight up and kind of just pivot my butt around and sit on the edge of the boat, and then usually with some help get my legs swung over into the drift boat, and then I can scoot over to whichever seat I'm going to be in. When I'm in the boat, changing seats is actually not too hard to get from the front to the back to whatever. It's just the initial getting in. And then getting out of the boat.
Wait. So are you getting in before you guys... Are you getting in on the ramp? And
No.
Then, okay.
No. We're putting the boat in the water.
Okay.
And then bringing it as close to the shore and turning it sideways. So, most of the time everybody else takes 1 or 2 steps in the water.
Right.
Instead, we're just turning the boat parallel to the bank and pulling it up on as close as we can to the...
So you can just come in right next to it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And hop over into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we haven't found one we weren't able to do it on. I've had I had a pretty nasty fall a few months ago trying to get in one that was a little more, I don't know if how familiar you are with the ramp that's Newcastle to Silt. So right after you cross the Newcastle Bridge, you know how it has the cement part and then and there's such a drop off between the two.
They really need to fix that.
Yeah, and so that one is a more difficult one for me. And not that long ago, I wiped out trying to get into the boat, and the boat like slid over the top of me. It was so I was like, I thought for sure I had broken my ankle. And my buddy's like, do you want to just go home? And I'm like, well, what's the point? I'm like, we're already here and I can't feel it. So I was like, let's just get me in the boat. It's swollen or not. I was like, let's just get me in the boat. It's the same, and I'll deal with it when I get home. So yeah, that, and getting out of that the takeout at Silt is kind of difficult for me as well.
Yeah.
Less because that one's just because it's super bouldery, rocky. Like there's not a packed sand area for me to, to get to.
They really need to, and it's funny that we're even talking about this because I've noticed that within the last 2 years, like they really need to go back in there and clean those up and get them worked.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's been something that's been neglected in a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't take much and now's the time to do it, when the water's low.
Yep.
Get in there, throw some concrete down, in those areas and get them extended out too. That's the problem too, is like a lot of them aren't extending out very far.
Well, and that's where this ties into the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is those then often are the only access that I have to fish from the banks is at boat ramps.
Right.
So, and it doesn't take much. They could just do a little extra to make an area just to the side of any boat ramp where you basically just do either a wooden platform or cement sidewalk a little bit just to the side where a wheelchair could then sit and fish from that area, because it's already cleared out from trees and most of the stuff that would be behind you in the way to cast.
Right.
So that's kind of, so that's one of the things I'm trying to work on. And I've got an interesting project coming up soon, but.
Like, can you fill us in on that?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So CPW, one of their officers contacted me or got in touch. I think she ended up getting in touch with the fly shop, and then they put her in touch with me, that she was wanting to build handicap access at Island Acres.
Okay.
Because there's none there, even the
like typical, a campground or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I mean for fishing.
Oh, for fishing.
For fishing specifically. It literally just a project that this particular officer cares about, because she said she saw so many older men and handicapped individuals that couldn't get to the water there because there isn't anything. So I was like, you know what, this is perfect, even though I don't want to fish there. But I was like, this is a chance to see it done properly,
right? Instead of,
I mean, even the places that handicap access exist for fishing, like I'm trying to think of a good example. So we'll take Corn Lake, because most people here know Corn Lake and know what Corn Lake's got. So like I said, there are 3 spots where really you can access as a handicapped person. 2 of the spots are well above the water line. Okay. So the issue you run into there is if you're a catch and release fisherman like I am, it's almost impossible to land a fish without having to wrench it out of the water in the air, because you can't get to the water to net the fish and to safely release it. And then the other thing that all 3 spots have is they have railing, which I understand why people feel that's necessary. I don't think it is, but that's a whole other thing. But why they want some kind of railing there so people don't fall in. Well, they do the rails as they would for normal people of normal height, which puts anyone that's in a wheelchair at eye level with the railing.
That bar is right here.
Yeah. So any of those piers, just picture any place that you've ever seen a fishing pier that's meant for handicapped people to use, there's almost always railing at eye level for somebody in a wheelchair. That makes it totally useless for them.
Right.
All of those
staring
spots
at the bar the whole time.
Yeah, and just you're casting.
Oh gosh, because you're way up here.
Yeah,
then.
so I mean that's a whole like. I don't know how technically you want to get in this, but I had to totally change my cast just to be able to cast from a wheelchair because I'm so low to the ground that I can't keep my rod here like a normal person would because it'll hit the ground behind me.
Right.
So I am
way
up high.
Here.
All my casting is arm fully raised and stuff, and that just adds one more obstacle is I'm coming forward and now I've got to try and high stick above the above the railing of the fishing pier that's supposed to be put there for my access. So anyhow, back to this current project at Island Acres. I just, so I met with her, went out to Island Acres and met with her and brought all that stuff up. And it, it's the way it is for most people. Like as we're talking here, like, oh, I never thought about that. So I'm explaining like all the different ways that typically don't get thought of when they're putting this stuff in, because whoever they're getting to do and design this stuff is clearly not handicapped and clearly not fishing with that in mind of how a handicapped person is gonna access the area. I mean, from the other one that I see all the time is, okay, great. So you made a ramp down to where the fishing pier is if there's an elevation drop, but you made it perfectly straight, which means it's super steep uphill for the handicapped person trying to come back up. Those need to be a traverse where it goes to one side and then to the other side and goes. That's the only way that a handicapped person can actually get up and down on their own without somebody else holding the wheelchair for them.
Right.
As they're trying to go down a super steep hill or up a super steep ramp so things like that. So this is just a good opportunity for me to work with them on getting something installed that actually is functional for people. And the other part that I'm more excited about is, since we're doing that at the same time, I think we're also going to be able to put an access on the Colorado River right there. And granted, there's not going to be good trout fishing there by any stretch of the imagination.
Catfish and bass, basically, right?
Probably pike minnow if we're lucky and stuff. And, there are trout, but it won't be great. But the way I look at it is, if I can get it designed properly and functional and take that design, I can take it to other places in the state and say, we did this here. This is the way to do it. Can we do it on a part of the Colorado where it makes sense to do it, like up in Silt or up in Newcastle, a place where
the fishing is so good right through there. So good.
So that's
you can catch big fish there. I think Newcastle would be really great. They already have that really nice area, to where the boat launch is at. It wouldn't be hard at all. They have that whole stretch there with nothing there that they could easily.
Or where the Glenwood ramp is, right? If you wanted to do South Canyon, so it's the right across from that is where they have that, like, I don't know that tiered bank thing where people are fishing all the time anyhow. Wouldn't take much to go in there and just add another level that's at the water level right there where handicapped people could access. I mean, it's already there for that purpose kind of thing. So,
and then to even take it a step further and try to manipulate the river a little bit just to give you some nice water right there. Some nice water that the fish are hang out in.
You start getting into more complicated stuff there because you're altering the environment of the water.
I know, but gosh, it's like a couple boulders. Come on.
I understand, and I don't disagree with you, but that's why, that's why a lot of those kind of things, and I hear complaints about it all the time, like with Trout Unlimited in particular, that they do these restoration and habitat improvement products, and they're often on private water where the public doesn't get to use them. And it was like, because if it's on the private land, that landowner is in charge of that, and they're allowing us to come in and do that stuff there, and therefore we don't have to go through.
Because it's like their water rights, right? That they're using.
Yeah, because in Colorado, They own the river bottom. You can't drop anchor on private property.
That needs to change.
I don't disagree with you, but that's the law as it stands right now, is that if you're on private property, even if you're landing a fish, you can't drop anchor. You are trespassing.
I know, man. That's tough.
I don't disagree, but that's a whole different thing. But what I'm saying is, because they own the river bottom there, we can go in and put boulders and do those kind of habitat improvement projects on that private water easier than we can the public.
There's not very much public water anyways, is there?
I mean,
well, no, I guess
it depends on where you're talking about. I will say the Gunnison has a ton.
Yeah.
From where I fish. I mean, that first couple of miles from Pleasure Park down is private, but as soon as you hit excuse me, sorry. As soon as you hit whatever the campground is there, I forget what it's called.
I can't remember either.
It's public until you hit BCA's property. Then they have some property for a little while, but then it becomes public again, and it's pretty much public from there all the way down to what is that, Highway 64, whatever the road that goes up over Grand Mesa.
Yeah.
So where that bridge is, where you would cross to go to Cedar Edge, that's the last takeout.
That takeout needs some serious
That is
work.
the worst take. So when we go to that, and we do that one quite often, when I do that one, I stay in the boat and ride it out on the trailer. And then we have to get out from the trailer, which adds a whole nother layer of stuff.
You're
but there's
way up there.
Yeah, but there's just no possible way for me to get out on that ramp.
Dude, that one needs so much work. And that's just dirt.
Yeah.
Too. There's no cement or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
none. And that's the steepest one by a long shot. I mean,
every June when we have our high water, that thing is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, that's really cool, dude. It's something to, like you said, to get into and build that network and that relationship with CPW. The Lake Fork of the Gunnison, it'd be cool to have something like that on the Lake Fork. I mean, you could even do that over there by do you remember the Red Bridge campground there on the cutoff road?
I do.
You could easily do something right there.
I agree. There's plenty of places that are public places. I mean, even like we were just talking about the Gunnison. Perfect example, again, of how not to do it is that campground that we were talking about on the left. If you remember, that pier that they have there for fishing is 10 feet up in the air. It's nowhere, nobody can land. It's not even a handicap. If you are fishing from that pier, you better be keeping those fish because you're not releasing them safely back into that water.
Yeah.
So it's just terribly done. Like, that needs to come down and be built out properly. And like, there are so many things like that. And the good thing is right now, there's a lot of money being thrown around to do stuff like that.
Yeah, so you got to cash out on it.
I mean, I'm the president of our local chapter of Trout Unlimited Grand Valley Anglers as of this December. So I just took over that role. And they're basically Trout Unlimited at the national level has come to us as chapters and said, there is a ton of money being thrown at the National Forest Service to work on projects to get stuff going. We need to know where what they're calling their priority waters are. So we're in the process of submitting that to them and saying these are our priority waters where we want to do some conservation work and stuff on and things like that, access-wise.
What other places do you have in mind as far as maybe getting some of those projects done?
Honestly, anywhere that...
Bring that mic a little closer to you if you don't mind. Or just
honestly, anywhere that anyone wants one, because they're really minimally invasive. I'm trying to. So part of this, again, since this isn't really a visual medium we're using here, I can't show people, but I would encourage people to go look at like the couple of places that I've seen it done very, very well. Okay, one would be the very last takeout at Flaming Gorge.
I've never been to that one.
You've never done the green Flaming Gorge?
Not the last takeout.
Well, it's the first section, the A section. You've done it.
Mm-hmm.
The last, there are 3 different ramps on that, 3 places you can take out.
Okay.
The last ramp. So on the last ramp,
I've never floated it.
Really?
I would love to.
We're gonna do that,
dude. That would be awesome.
That's
the only thing is like I do not know how to row.
I will row. It's
well, you're
so
not going
much
to row
fun.
the whole time.
Yeah. No, I like rowing. It's
okay,
a
dude.
lot
I will
of fun.
pay you to be my guide.
Okay, fair enough.
And
we'll
you
make
can
this
take
happen.
me, and we'll do it. I'm totally down for
we'll
that.
grab your brother too. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, he'd love that.
Or stick my dad in the back once he can actually get in a boat again.
I would love that. I would love to go on a floating trip with the both of you. It would be great.
We can make that happen. Whether or not it's Flaming Gorge, we can at least make that happen on the Gunnison or something.
No, we'll do both. But
yeah.
I want to do the Flaming Gorge.
It's really fun, man. We did it. That is the first time that he and I had floated together in 20-something years was this last fall. We did Flaming Gorge. Cool. So
bring that just a little closer if you don't mind. There you
go. There we go. I keep forgetting it can come this way.
Yeah, you can pretty much put it right where you want it.
So yeah, so they have, but back to what I said, they have an excellent. So the try and visualize this. There's a really nice paved boat ramp at the end that you come out of, and on either side of the boat ramp, they've basically built wooden sidewalk, is what I would almost call it, because it's not really a pier because it's at the water level on either side of the boat ramp. Not particularly long, I'd say maybe 20 yards on either side.
Sure.
But enough that I can roll down there, go out on those and fish from there really easily, and it's got restroom facilities right there and everything else.
You can catch fish right there. There's fish right there.
Yeah, I mean, you're still what you run into there, and you'll run into anywhere that they put. Anytime you're going to put handicap access or any, it doesn't even have to be handicap. Anytime you're fishing next to a boat ramp, you're going to have boats.
Right.
So
people taking in and out. All the time.
So it becomes one of those. So like with the Flaming Gorge in particular, with that one, it's great because that ramp is generally the takeout. So it gets busy in the afternoon when people start taking out. But if you go first thing in the morning, there's nobody there. So it's perfect. You can fish. Cool. So it's things like that. You have to just know the timing of when to do things. I mean, another place that I fish quite often that has decent access is up in Wolcott on the Eagle. You go literally, you turn off I-70 and right where the bridge is. If you're going to head to Steamboat instead, you just follow back.
Is that the Kremling turnoff or whatever it is too, like that exit?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Kremling, yeah.
It's definitely how you would go to Steamboat, like
I know
from
what you're
here.
talking about.
So
there's great water up there.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
The problem is that and they have a campground down there, a pretty small campground. I want to say there's only like 10 or 12 spots total, but a nice boat ramp and a nice place that I can access right there to fish. But that is the takeout for all the Vail Valley anglers, fly shop, and all that are floating down from Vail. That's their takeout. So same thing. If I want to fish there, that's a get up really early and go there and fish in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock call it a day, because come 2 o'clock, it's just going to be raft after raft after raft taking out, and they don't have a choice. They're not doing it to be jerks.
Well,
but
no, that's just where
that's where they got to take out.
Yeah.
So they're going to constantly be there in the way. So yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see some of those kind of access places put that aren't at boat ramps, that are just, we made this for you to have access to.
Right.
So that leads me to the best one that I've ever seen by a long shot it's called the Norfork River, and it connects to the White River in Arkansas. The White River in Arkansas is one of the most hidden gems that there is in the United States.
Actually, we're just going to quit talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need anybody knowing about that one. Anyhow, the Norfork feeds the White River. So part of what makes the White so special is it's got 3 dams that are feeding it new, fresh tailwater as it goes along over this like 12-mile stretch. It has 3 separate dams dumping brand new, cold, fresh water into it. The Norfork is one of those. There's a dam. Well, right next to the dam on the Norfork River, there's a creek called Dry Creek Run. Ironic name, Dry Creek, but it's where the hatchery is, one of the hatcheries that they have for the White River, and they have designated that stretch of the Dry Creek Run that's next to the dam and next to the hatchery as to only be allowed to have people that are handicapped or under the age of 16 fish there.
That's great.
The fish are ridiculous because they're released from the hatchery into there, and so a lot of them just stay and get massive.
Nice.
And the piers, so what they did, and I think it's the coolest thing, and it's what I want to do with the Island Acres project, is instead of one giant thing where people are standing shoulder to shoulder, what they did is built individual fishing piers that are for 1 or maybe 2 people tops every, say, 10, 15 yards down the river, about 10 of them. And so it accomplishes the same thing, but it spreads the anglers out, and they're amazing. I mean, they're built exactly how you would want them. They go 2 or 3 feet out over the water so that the handicapped person is actually up on the water, so that they can easily, from a wheelchair, as long as you've got a decently long net, can net your own fish, can release your own fish into the water. They're far enough that extra length that you get by being out on the pier and not on the bank separates you from the stuff behind you, so you've got a little room to cast.
And I mean, are they trying to get the level where your wheels are in the water? Is it pretty darn close?
No, you're still, I would say, 2.5 feet above the water. But again, you're close enough that you can reach down with a net fairly easily.
Got a long neck net
and be able to
to
net your fish with no problem. Now, I mean, that can't work everywhere because of water level differences. You know what I mean? Like the Colorado, the Gunnison places. But what you could do instead is some kind of floating pier system where it can rise and lower with the water level.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's my like what I would like to see, even though it's a little less stable.
Patent that and then become a multimillionaire.
Right.
That's what you need to do.
But yeah, any kind of a floating system like that could adjust to the water. But that's the best one I've ever seen. And they don't have to worry about that because it's dam controlled, so the water level is controlled by them.
Right.
There's no difference in the water level there. But that's the best one I've ever seen. Like if somebody says, what do you want it to look like? That's the best one. The one that is done the best here that you or any of the listeners can go see is actually in Montrose on the Uncompahgre, where it runs through town. They have a park. They've changed its name now, so I'm probably going to say the wrong name, but it's River Bottom Park. It's their equivalent of Canyon View Park.
Okay.
It's their main park in Montrose. It's on the Gunnison River. It's where they've got like all their softball fields and their skate park and everything else.
Wait,
the river runs.
It's on the Gunnison?
Gunnison, sorry, the Uncompahgre.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The Uncompahgre.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Right where it runs through town. So, 9 miles down the road, 10 miles down the road from Paco.
Uh-huh.
They built a handicap, and I don't know if they intended it to be this or not because it's not designated as such. It doesn't have a sign that says like handicap access, but they built a ramp that goes gradually down to the water. So again, so a person can get, even it's a little too steep. Like if it's at all if it's snowed or anything there, I have to have help to get up and down. So I can't go on my own.
Sure.
If there's any kind of snow, but it goes down and literally dumps to where the Uncompahgre is, to the point that I can roll my wheels out into the water and sit at water level.
I was actually just going to ask you that. Have you ever heard of a place where wheelchair people can like wade out and then do some fishing?
I mean, not designed that way, but yeah, I mean, people do it all the time. There's
how cool would it be if there was something that was designed for that?
I agree.
That'd be really, really
that's
neat.
The kind of like to actually be able to wade out there essentially.
Well, yeah, like get yourself into like 16, 18 inches of water, still on some sort of a platform. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's probably concrete or something like that. You know, but a 50 foot in diameter, you know, or something that kind of goes out into the water, and then this nice, you know, manipulated water that's right in front of you.
Exactly. That's
Dude, you
the
should
dream.
do like a park like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly there's room for it, and there's more of a need for it than I think people realize.
Sure.
I mean, you know, these kind of things.
It's almost like you'd have to, again, going back to the private land, you'd have to find a rancher, you know,
who is willing to do it.
Who would be willing to do it.
That it's funny you say that. That another one of my good buddies that's a guide at Western Anglers, Tyler Morris. That's his idea too. He said we just gotta. It's like we've got to find one of the people on the Colorado or on the Gunnison River that would, you know, it'd be to their benefit in the sense that their land would be getting enhanced, but where you'd run into the problem is the public need to be able to access that spot. So how do you, you know, how do you wrestle with that of where can they park and where can they get access to the spot? Or is it something that's done, you know, maybe it's private, but it's something that you can book time with them kind of thing.
Maybe like a membership type of thing.
Yeah, or schedule stuff.
I think the White River would be great for it too.
Yeah, although again, but the Whites, I don't know where there's any public.
That's what I'm getting at. Like
like in Meeker, like Meeker, it'd be great.
Well, like that huge long stretch that the Elks, what is it, the Elk Ranch or whatever it is up there with all those big old fancy homes. Mm-hmm. They've got like 2.5 miles of river. Agreed.
That's the kind of spots we're talking about, but that's where you run into what I just said of where is the public going to be allowed to park to access that, and you know what's the liability situation for that rancher of somebody getting hurt on it or.
Gosh, you get into all that stuff.
I know, dude. It does, yeah. But that's the stuff that keeps it from happening.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things that you have to have the right person that's willing to be slightly flexible with that kind of stuff.
Almost like if CPW could like lease it somehow, you know, so that the liability and all of that can be taken care of, and yeah, or maybe like a nonprofit organization comes in and leases that section, and then they can build it out, you know, the way that it needs to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's one of the things I'd like to see happen. But I think at this point, the more practical approach is to see about enhancing some of the public stuff that's already there.
It's the easiest.
It's the stuff, you know, the stuff with less red tape to cut through and less barriers to making happen, other than showing that there's a need for it and then figuring out who's going to pay for it kind of thing, which is...
When is that Island Acres project going to start?
I don't know. I actually need to reach out to them and find out. They were applying for grants. There was a cycle of grants that they were applying for this winter, And so right about now is when they should be getting the answers to whether they
Okay.
got the grants or not. So
We should do a documentary on that.
yeah, if it happens, that was something I was already planning on doing, but man, getting you to do it with your skill level for that stuff would be the way to go.
Yeah,
Because
dude, we
otherwise
should do
I was
it.
going to be filming it on my phone. And
No, we'll do it right, and we'll make it look really, really cool.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to be a part of that. That'd
Yeah.
be awesome.
We can definitely make that happen if it happens. So,
Yeah.
But I'm fairly confident. I mean, those piers get built on every other park.
Right.
Like, it can't be that hard. The only thing we're trying to do differently is build it better.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I imagine that, and even if they don't get the grant funding, I think I have enough friends and people with relationships with businesses here, car dealerships, things like that we could probably raise the money that we need to do it, if nothing
Yeah.
else, to make it happen. We just need permission at this point.
Right.
From
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you too. Like, how do you even go about starting that? Okay, so let's say there's a piece of land that you'd like to do this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you draw it up or whatever, you know, like,
Yeah.
and then you submit it and all of that, raise the funds. Like, I don't even know where to start with something like that.
Agreed. I mean, it's going to be, you know, it depends on who controls the land. So that's going to be the first, you know, person to go to. So in this
What about
case,
like Pleasure Park? I mean, couldn't they do something right there? Real
but
easily?
that's owned by, I think it's owned by that guy, isn't it? Al or whatever his name is.
For some reason, I thought it was a state park.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Pleasure is, I think it's open to the public to use, but the second you put in at Pleasure Park, you are on private property. Like, you're not allowed to drop anchor for that first, I want to say it's 2 or 3 miles on either side of the river is privately owned until you hit that campground.
Yeah.
It gets Cottonwood or something like that campground, whatever that campground is.
Is the state leasing something there? Because it seems like CPW has something there.
So I think CPW owns up into the canyon. I think that's like
Okay.
where the end of the property,
Okay.
the public property is. And so literally anything to the right of the boat ramp is private property. And then left going up the fork in either direction, I think is public land for some extent. It might
Okay.
be the whole way for the Gunnison. I'm not sure.
What's the fishing
main
like?
fork.
If so, you have the gorge coming in right there, and what's that? Is that called the fork right there? What's
The
the
North
fishing?
Fork of the
what's,
Gunnison?
Yeah, what's the fishing like going up the north?
I have never done it because I can't get up there.
Right. Okay.
I've heard it's great. There are lots of people that park at
And
Pleasure
there's not
Park
enough
and
water
walk up.
to float it, right?
No, there is. What they
Okay.
do, in fact, you can pay that company, whatever the thing is that's right there. They have
The
jet
taxi
boats,
or
and
whatever.
they will drive your boat up there, drag your boat
Okay.
upriver for you, so you can float back
Up
down.
the north.
I don't know about the north, but they'll take you up the canyon
Right. I knew that.
side. I don't
Yeah.
know how the north is for floating. I honestly, it's pointless for me to answer this one because anything I say would be a guess at this
Well,
point.
no, I
just
understand that, yeah.
So I honestly don't know. But
Okay.
I've heard that there is good fishing on
Up
both
the north.
sides. Up both, and that lots of people do.
Okay.
And don't have to go very far. That there are a lot of
Right.
people that park at Pleasure Park and walk up
Up the north.
the north
Okay.
to fish. So again,
I've always. It's funny because I'll drive up there and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just fish up the north. And then once I get there, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the gorge.
yeah, like I already know that there's going to be stuff up
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like, if the parking lot is pretty empty, then I'm just like, no, I can't. There's not much people here, so I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
take
go ahead.
advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It's
gets
funny
so
how we're
busy
all
up
that
there,
way.
dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So have you taxied up and come down?
I have not.
Okay.
A friend of mine borrowed my boat and did do that
Mm-hmm.
when I had the smaller boat, and he said it was great.
Yeah.
They decided that was the way to go for a day, and I was like, hey, more power to you.
Yeah.
I've never done it, so
You can't do that all year long, though, can you?
I think it's just flow. Depends on flows because it gets pretty. But again, you're coming out of the dam, so it is still
they know
controlled.
What the flows are.
You're able to check. I mean, the only thing that you are unable to control is the North Fork part of it is natural. So and that is, I mean, that one's a big deal. That's a big deal all year up there is to figure out if that's flowing too heavy, it's going to dirty up the water at the fork down. I mean, how many times do you go there and you're like, man, the Gunnison's perfect, but the North Fork's blown out.
Oh, yeah.
So now anything down the down river is going to be terrible. So,
that is really interesting. Like the differences in between that. Not that this would ever happen, but it would sure be cool if they put a reservoir in, like by it was Escalante Canyon, and I know like way back in the day there was like this is like decades and decades and decades ago there was talk about it, but it'd be really really neat because that would create such another great stretch of fishing all the way down back to the Colorado right there. Right up here at Orchard Mesa.
I don't disagree with you, but I can, unless things drastically change.
Yeah.
I don't see any more dams being built in the United States ever again.
I know.
If anything, dams are getting torn down. They're not getting put up.
The demand for electricity keeps going up, but we're not going to make
the thing that allows you to get electricity from the water. Anyhow,
but
I mean, that just is not going to happen.
It would never happen. But man, that would be so cool.
Agreed, and it create. I mean, if you do it right, like that's what for anybody that doesn't know, that's what makes Flaming Gorge so amazing that people don't realize is not only is it a dam, so you have the immediate tailwater below the dam. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is they have 3 different levels they can release from that dam to control the temperature. So in the summer, when it's hot, they release from the bottom of the dam, from the coldest water coming out of the bottom of the reservoir. And in the winter, like now, when it's cold, they release from the top. So that water, the Flaming Gorge section, that first 6 or so miles below the dam is remarkably consistent in temperature and flow all year long. That's why you can go today, you can go in the middle of the summer.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, because they control the temperature by what level.
They had the foresight then.
It was built for fishing. That is one of the few dams in the world that was 100% designed to create fishing.
Gosh, that is so cool.
And that's why it's one of the best in the world. I mean, I forget what I'm going to say the wrong number, but it's something like they estimate that there are 6 million fish in that 8-mile stretch of water or something like that.
Well, it's like the world's largest fishery.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Yeah, and it's all catch and release too.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, I mean, now, there's flip sides to that, which is it's one of the busiest places depending on when you go. I mean...
Yeah, but if you go up to the northwest, where everybody's trying to catch all the salmon and stuff.
Steelhead, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Quick little funny story. So I went up there last year, I think it was, to meet with a buddy of mine. And we were just fishing off the bank. And I can't even remember what river it was. Beautiful, beautiful river. But so, like, I'm casting, and... I can't remember what it was that I was fishing with. It was all real casting. It wasn't fly fishing. And, cast up and then I think it was just a lure. Right. I don't lure fish a whole lot, so I'm very, very uneducated in that. And, doing my thing. And this guy comes up literally like maybe 15 feet from me. And... and I'm throwing into this hole that's on the other side of the bank.
Right, so you're letting it drift down.
Yeah, so it's drifting down. And he's casting over me.
Yeah.
And, and so we're kind of doing this thing, right? Like, but coming from Colorado, like, I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a whole different game with that stuff.
Yeah. I had no idea that's just how it is. Like, they wait a certain amount of time to where they know what your drift is going to be, and then they go right over your line.
Yep.
And I was shocked. And I turned to the guy, and he was just like, hey, how's it going, man? And so that I immediately was like, whoa, this is normal.
Yeah.
I had no idea. No idea.
It's funny you say that. You don't even have to go that far to see that. If you want to see that, just go to the eastern slope of Colorado I've heard that that's how Deckers and all those, I haven't fished any of the places on the eastern side of Colorado, but I've heard that that's all how that is too, that you're just elbow to elbow with everybody. It's like 1, 2, 3 cast, everybody drifts the same. And then, all right, let's pick up and cast again. And if you get out of unison, you start getting tangled up because there's that many people fishing. And, the toilet bowl on the frying pan can be that same way
really
with
busy.
with a ton of people standing right there all fishing. Paco can I've had times at Paco where I'm like, man, this is literally the only place I can fish and you're standing 2 feet from me. Like, you can see I'm in a wheelchair and this is the only place I can go.
Caught the biggest fish I've ever caught on a fly rod in Paco.
Yeah.
Yep. Surprisingly. Small little hole. And that giant was just hanging out in there. It was crazy. It's
why I love places that are posted catch and release only for that reason.
Yeah, get some big ones.
You've got some opportunity to catch big fish.
Yeah.
So,
well, man, looking at our time here, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thanks for coming on, man. This is really, really cool. And gosh, your journey is 1 in a million or 1 in 600 or whatever it is.
1 in 600 each year.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate the fact that you're not letting it bring you down, and you're getting out there and you're fishing, you're doing something you really love. Super excited for you to, with this project that you're doing, get that done. And there's just a lot of cool things, and I'd love to be able to help out documentary wise or whatever. I think
Absolutely,
we could do something really cool. So
yeah.
Thanks
for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's the first time I've gotten to do this, so
that's cool. And we will go fish.
Yeah, anytime
we will.
Let's make it happen.
And I would like to go someplace where that has easy enough water that maybe I can learn to row a little bit too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Honestly, if we end up doing the Flaming Gorge, there's like 2 spots where I would need to be.
Oh, okay.
At the helm, and that's it. Like there are a couple spots where you need to know exactly what you're doing.
I'm going to be rowing. You guys are going to be fishing, and you're going to be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
No, it's not. It's quicker to learn than you think.
Yeah.
Takes years to get really good at it, and I'm definitely not there yet.
Yeah.
I can tell you, but
a little bit of a name drop here. Jake Williams?
I do.
Yeah. Good buddy of mine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's taken me quite a few times out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where do you guys go?
Mostly pleasure in the Gunnison. Yeah, and he's taken me down to Colorado 2 times.
Nice.
Him and his brother are just exceptional people. And unfortunately, Jake just moved away. So
where'd he move to?
He moved over to I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's somewhere between Denver and Colorado Springs.
Oh, right, to run that ranch, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and he's doing it, man.
Yeah,
he's loving
that's what
it.
I heard. Yeah. I forgot that he got that job. I remember talking to him like right before, like when he was in talks with them.
Yeah.
To go up there, and he was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to do it." Yeah, I ran into him semi often at Western Anglers at the fly shop. So
it was funny because I used to always talk about you with him.
But you probably said Chris all the time,
yes.
so he had no idea.
And then in one conversation, he was like, "Yeah, Cade was in there," and this guy, and I was like, "Wait a minute, Cade," and I was like, I turned, I was like, dude, Cade is Chris. Chris is Cade.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
Not real often there, because like I said, there just aren't that many people that are still around that knew me before. So, but that has happened. I've had a couple of people walk into the fly shop and say, "Hey, my buddy Chris told me to come in here," and they're like, "Who's Chris?" Guy in the wheelchair. You mean Cade? And it goes, back and forth. But even the fly shop has figured out that happens. So now they
got it down.
Yeah, they're like, as long as they're talking about a guy in a wheelchair, it's probably me. It's basically what it comes
Chris,
down to.
Cade, Chris, Cade.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, let's go fish.
All right, let's do it.
All right.